What's going on, family? It's your man Miami Patron here for another video, coming to you from beautiful Santa Marta, Colombia. Now this is the #1 channel for those of you that want to travel full-time and make money while doing it. They're called digital nomads. I basically help people become digital nomads. So go ahead and leave a comment below the first place you want to go ahead and travel to. Alright, so what I'm going to be talking about in this video are the things I loved about Medellin. So for those of you that don't know, I actually lived in Medellin for 4 months and I fell in love with the city. I actually started traveling there on accident, right? So let me tell you how I actually got into Medellin, and I'm gonna tell you the things that I loved about it, all right? So I was traveling a little bit. I was in Puerto Rico, throughout the United States and different stuff like that, you know, starting at the beginning of the year when I turned 23. But I finally got my passport. Yes, I barely got my passport this year. And I had a friend move to Medellin. And I thought, dude, is this guy crazy? Why would you move to Medellin? Have you not seen Narcos, right? But that's the American mentality. We watch stuff on the news and people are like, whoa, you shouldn't really go to Medellin. But when he went there, he's like, man, I fell in love with it. He actually went to go visit a friend and he moved there a week later. I'm like, dude, is this guy crazy? And at the same time that he decided to move there, I had gotten my passport, right? And so I was like, man, where should I go? Like, you know, where should I go? When I looked up a flight to Medellin, it was only 3 hours away from Miami. So not only did I have a friend in Medellin, it was only 3 hours. The flight was $100. Boom, I decided to go to Medellin right after him. So I only went to Medellin with the intentions to stay there for 2 weeks. And guys, check this out. And I'm gonna go over the list here in a second. I fell in love with the city of Medellin and I ended up staying there for 4 months. 4 months in Medellin. So living there for 4 months, I was able to look at the good stuff and the bad stuff. I was actually gonna make a video on things I hate about Medellin, but I could not come up with anything. I kid you not, I have a list here. I'm gonna be reading my notes. I couldn't even come up with 2 things that I disliked about Medellin. So that video will never happen. So the only video that's gonna be coming out of Medellin are the things that I loved about it. All right, so let's go ahead and hop into number 1. Number 1 was the weather. Guys, the weather in Medellin, for those of you that don't know, Medellin stands for eternal spring. Now, I was born in California, right? Southern California, San Diego. San Diego is one of the most expensive cities in all the United States because of the beautiful weather, right? Before starting traveling, I was in Miami, right? And I've been throughout different cities in the United States, but let me tell you this. Medellin has the best weather I've ever seen in my life. I'm talking about year-round, 70 to 75 degrees year-round. I kid you not. I did not see a single AC, air conditioning, in all of Medellin in 4 months. Not in the houses. You literally just leave your windows and your glass doors open all day long, all night long, because the weather is just so fresh and refilling, right? So definitely the weather was something that I loved. I'm gonna look at my notes here. The next thing that I loved about it was a relatively clean city. But what I mean by clean is like the ground, right? Because right now I'm in Santa Marta and it's not the cleanest city, right? With a lot of holes, it's just like it's not as developed as Medellin. But when you get into Medellin, especially if you're in the tourist bubble like Poblado, La Reles, the sidewalks are really nice. There's a lot of trash cans throughout, and then just basically the city itself and in the tourist spots, right? It's a really, really clean city, and I can really come to appreciate that. Because now that I'm traveling outside of Medellin, I'm starting to notice why I should have appreciated the cleanliness of the city. Now I can't talk about the air quality because air quality is not the best, but the city itself is relatively clean. It's not really as dirty and shit all over the sidewalk. It's a really clean city, so that's something that I really like. Then the next thing I liked about Medellin, it was super green. One of the things I loved about the city, and this is really different, right? If you're watching this video, if you're from the United States, you're familiar with Los Angeles, New York, and stuff like that, right? So imagine these big buildings, like, you know, Los Angeles, all that kind of stuff, right? They're built on flat lands, right? In the United States. But in Medellin, the buildings, right? The buildings are built up the side of a mountain. So imagine seeing these huge mountains going these huge buildings going up the mountain. It is one of the craziest and like real Matrix looking things, and I loved it. And what I loved about the greenery that comes with the mountains is because the buildings are red, the bricks are red on the buildings, and the green forest, it just made this really cool effect to see this red buildings going up this green forest, right? So I loved how green it was. So for those of you that don't know Medellin, Medellin is built inside of a valley. So it's surrounded by forests. Even within the city, there's a bunch of parks and forests and stuff like that. So even though the air's a little bit polluted because it sits in a valley, the greenery is just something to really take in. The brush, and there's always great stuff to look at when you're in Medellin because there's always great nature surrounding. The next thing that I loved about Medellin, it was super economical. So obviously this is gonna be for those of you that are coming from the United States or Australia or something like that. But for those of you that are coming from one of the the top countries where you're using the dollar, going into Medellin, your purchasing power is so much higher. So for those of you that don't know, it's about a 1-to-3 ratio. So $1 is about 3,000 pesos, give or take, right? So think about it. If you're making let's just say you're making $1,000 a month online, that is worth 3,000 in Medellin. So make sure you check out my video here where I talk about living in Medellin like a king for under $1,000, where I literally break down all my expenses. Where I literally had a two bedroom apartment overlooking the city, security, and I go over everything, food, transportation. I was able to live for under $1,000 a month, even with all that stuff. So definitely check that out. But that's what I loved about Medellin, was also the economical part, where you can live a first-class life at a third-class price, or something. I forget what the word is called, but being able to make money in dollars and live in pesos was really something that was really fun, and the first time I ever experienced that. So if you're coming to Medellin and you're making money online, or you're earning in dollars and gonna live in pesos, you're gonna live a really fun life as well. The next thing that I loved about Medellin, it was a great spot for digital nomads, all right? Because I'm actually in Santa Marta right now. I'm actually gonna be making a video on if Santa Marta is great for digital nomads, but make sure you check out the video here where I give you a full guide to the digital nomad lifestyle in Medellin. But anyways, Medellin is great for the digital nomad, right? There's a lot of co-working spots, there's a lot of cafes, and it's really great place where it's for a home base, right? Because we're not backpackers, we're not gonna be traveling all over this stuff, because as a digital nomad, we need quality Wi-Fi. We need a spot where we can work and get stuff done. And Medellin has the infrastructure to really house a digital nomad. Cafes, restaurants, co-working spots, and great fast Wi-Fi, something that was really important for me when getting started on this journey. The next thing, it's tourist friendly. It's really tourist friendly. Now, Medellin is not seen as the tourist spot yet, like Cartagena. Cartagena is like the most tourist spot in all of South America, right? And you're gonna pay tourist price, and it's really catered to tourists. Where Medellin is still really taking on tourists, but they accept it and they take care of the tourists. So you can go into Medellin, still be taken care of as a tourist, but not really feel like you're in a touristy spot where you're just surrounded and people are trying to sell you stuff all the time, right? Because here in Santa Marta, I can't even stand on the beach without being sold something every 5 minutes, and it gets kind of annoying, right? So getting to Medellin and being treated well as a tourist, but not feeling like you're in a tourist city, was something that I really loved about Medellin. The next thing I liked, it was easy to get around, right? For those of you that don't know, there is Uber in Medellin. Now that I landed in Santa Marta, there is no Uber, right? And that's stuff I wish I knew. But in Medellin, it's super easy to get around. Whether you take an Uber, whether you hop on the metro system or take the cable cars, anything like that, it's super easy to get from one side to the other side. And that was something that I could really appreciate. Because now that I'm here in Santa Marta, I have to walk everywhere or take a taxi because there's no Uber here, all right? So getting around in Medellin is something that I really loved. And the next thing I loved about Medellin were the views. I'm gonna show you guys some views from my apartment. Check this out. Some of the most beautiful views I've ever seen in my life. Because like I said, Medellin sits in the valley. So if you're on either side of the valley, going up the mountain, you get to see the entire buildings. You get to see the city, the valley. You get to see from one side of the valley to the other side of the valley. And every single morning, I got to wake up to this beautiful view, whether it was the sunset, the sunrise, or anything like that. And that's one thing I could really appreciate. And another tip is, if you take the cable car, right? If you take the trolley to the cable car, you can actually ride the cable car. Maybe I'll show you guys some videos here. You can ride the cable car and have the most amazing view. Where it's like, holy shit, I'm like an airplane. Like you're on like aerial, right, footage, because it's like so high up, but you can really sit there and appreciate how beautiful this city is. And the final one is, we can't miss it, guys. I loved the girls there, right? I'm a single guy, so I'm gonna talk about that, right? If you don't like that stuff, click out of the video. But guys, the women there were just absolutely beautiful. I didn't go there for the girls, but when I got there, I was shook, right? Gorgeous girls, natural, and every single step of the way you go out, every single day, you're gonna wanna find a wife or find a girlfriend. So that was something that I could really appreciate while I was there, and I did take it for granted. But now that I'm outside of Medellin, it's not the same in Colombia, but while I was in Medellin, it was just a crock pot of beautiful women. My dating life really skyrocketed up there, so that's something that I really appreciated while I was there in Medellin, right? The biggest takeaways were the weather, the economics, and the girls. That was the biggest thing for me, why I decided to stay there for 4 months. But now it's time to keep moving. I am here in Santa Marta, and I'll be heading out to Cartagena here in a couple weeks. But other than that, guys, this is the channel for those of you that want to get started on the digital nomad journey. So make sure you subscribe below. But other than that, I'll see you guys next time. Miami Patron.